Good evening, everybody. I call to order the Bethany City Council meeting for Tuesday, February 4th, 2020. It's 7:30 p.m. Will you please rise for the invocation and the flag salute? Would you please join me in prayer? Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity to be here. I thank you for those that you've gathered here. I thank you for wisdom and insight and direction and courage. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. If you please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 1 is consent docket, A and B. Do I have any questions or a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And I will let council know, as you can tell, we don't have a light board, and so we'll be doing a roll call vote.
Larson?
Roll call vote.
Goodwin?
Yay.
Herron?
Yay.
Knapp?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
Sandoval?
Yay.
Westmoreland?
Yes.
Hunter?
Yay.
Powell?
Item 2 is a public hearing item. Consideration and possible adoption of resolution number 1582, a resolution amending the comprehensive land use plan of the city of Bethany by the designating certain property at 3200 North Council Road from single-family residential to mixed-use development. We have a report, I believe.
Good evening, everybody. Amanda McClellan. I am Director of Planning and Community Development, for anyone who doesn't know me. Tonight we are here to consider a rezoning of a property to multi-use, or mixed-use development at 3200 North Council. So we'll start with just some of the property information. The property is currently single-family residential, and it's surrounded on all 4 sides by single-family residential R1. The lot's 162 feet wide by 370 feet deep for 1.14 acres, and the existing build lines are a 25-foot front, a 20-foot rear, and a 5 and 10 side. There currently is a residential building and an accessory structure, and the proposed structure is going to be a mixed-use development that is residential, warehouse, industrial, and potentially retail. The water line runs on the west side of Council, and sanitary sewer lines. There are no sanitary sewer lines serving that property at this time. So project information. The applicant's requesting the zoning to move their operations from a rented warehouse outside of Bethany into the Bethany city limits. The comprehensive plan, the 2030 plan, specifically lays out in the strategy map that this area be commercial mixed use. Throughout the planning process for the Bethany comp plan, multiple stakeholders and the public expressed strong support for Bethany to adopt a more mixed use approach for future development in Bethany.
Excuse me. I think that the council can't see this one over here. Look every time.
Keeps blinking on and off.
That's not me. I don't know. Thank you, Barry. So a little bit about mixed use districts, because this is actually our first rezone for mixed use. The mixed-use zoning category is something that we adopted when we did the Title 15 update. We did not have a mixed-use zoning category prior to that, but that's something that the comprehensive plan spoke to a lot throughout the city, and so we adopted a mixed-use zoning category, and this is the first one that we are hearing with this case. The intent of the mixed-use district is to create opportunities to increase development intensity within a targeted area, to promote compatibility between residential and non-residential uses, and these districts are also intended to encourage redevelopment of underutilized parcels and infill development. And some objectives of the mixed-use districts: cultivate entrepreneurial environment that fosters diverse and growing local economy and community, create vibrant atmospheres through a mass of retail, restaurants, specialty shops, industrial shopping, offer quality experiences for dining, shopping, living, and working, expand the diversity of retail-based community services, and allow for mixed-use residential infill development along all commercial corridors. So some more background. These are going to be our bulk and yard standards for mixed-use development. So this is what will be required of the site plan, because as with anything, this new development will require a site plan that will come to the Community Development Department if this rezone is approved. There's no minimum front or side setbacks with the MUD. It has a 25-foot rear setback. There's no maximum lot coverage. The exterior finishes are going to be the same as they are for most of our commercial corridors. So exterior finishes of buildings facing a street shall be constructed and maintained using wood clapboard or equivalent, brick, metal, vinyl, stone, or a combination of such. Vinyl and metal siding will not be permitted for use as exterior siding for primary accessory buildings on facades when it faces a street. And as with everything else, your design standards will be something that will be looked at and approved during the site plan process as well. Your zoning map. So here we have all yellow. Yellow for us is R1 residential. So the square with the blue there at the top is the property that we're talking about there. And our comprehensive plan strategy map, if you'll look at that area that's circled in red, that's the area that we are talking about that shows that it is targeted as a commercial mixed-use area. And we have a front view of the property and an aerial view of the property. And this is just a rough proposed layout that the applicant has given us. Like I said before, if this is approved, they will have to go through the entire site plan process to be approved. That's where we're going to look to make sure that all the criteria of public improvements are met, the site plan improvements are met, they're following landscaping ordinances, they're following the facade, exterior, all of that will be looked at by staff during the site plan process and approved by staff. It will probably come up, and the question is that the property owner is on septic. The applicants and or their engineer will have to show us that all development can be supported by the septic system in place prior to approval of their site plan. If they can't do that, they will have to work with the city, and they know this, to come up with a suitable option, whether that's connecting to the sewer line or a bigger septic system or whatever that may look like. But they are very aware of this, and that will all be taken care of during the site plan process. One phone call was received on this case. It was an informational phone call only, so it wasn't for or against this project. No one came to speak during the public comment section at Planning and Zoning. And P&Z recommended unanimously to go ahead and approve this and recommend it for approval to City Council tonight. And I can take questions, or the applicant is here as well, and the applicant would probably be happy to take questions as well.
I would just like to say that I'm excited that the comp plan is moving forward with our first mixed use opportunity here. So I'm glad the applicants are here. Does council have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If I'm understanding correctly, there will not be a retail outlet at this point, here, at this location?
I can let them speak to that. I know they have talked about maybe some kind of retail component. It would probably not be like a 5-day or 7-day-a-week retail component. I know they've talked about having a space for special events, or that they have open to the public maybe once or twice a month, but not like your traditional typical retail that they have in their other locations.
So the sales tax dollars are going to be minimal? Am I assuming?
Probably so,
Are you
yeah.
the applicant? Is that,
Just introduce yourself.
Yes. My name is Shane Moots. I'm an applicant. But yeah, as far as now, we haven't made a firm decision one way or the other. We are looking for somewhere to do our manufacturing, which would also have a small retail component to it. But parking and things like that would have to be figured out in order to figure out how large that would be able to do tax dollar wise.
and then on your plan, the little sketch that we got
Yes,
for
ma'am.
your concept,
Yes.
are you tearing down the old home and building a new one, or
We believe so, yes.
remodeling,
Yes,
or-
yes, ma'am. It is.
And then you're going to put a building in front of it? On the
It would
council's
be
side?
essentially in the same area it is now, just maybe a little more towards the street to make best use of the space.
The house will be on the street?
It'll
Or
be
another building?
it'll be probably closer to the street. Yeah, we would enlarge the footprint of the current structure. Now it would be larger than the current structure. Is that what you're asking? I'm sorry.
Okay. I have some concerns about the means of egress and egress, if that would be an issue that staff would address at the appropriate time. I know that the fire department will make their inspections as necessary, as well as everybody else on staff, but I know right now, on council, if you don't have those two, it's not real fun, especially at 5 o'clock or 7 to 9 o'clock in the morning. And so I don't know how much traffic we're talking about there in comparison to what you have now, but some of the vehicles, it sounds like, are going to be rather large as well, and that is some concern of mine. Things that we have to address, I understand, and whether it does in fact follow the comprehensive plan as we had intended. I think there's some gray areas in the comp plan yet. So, but thank you for answering my questions.
I think they would have to go through the proper, if they're, whatever they're doing, they're going to have the right drive to be able to accommodate whatever
Yes.
they're doing.
Yes, it would all be taken care of during the site plan process, which would be reviewed by myself, the city engineer, and the fire department as well, to look at fire hydrants, making sure that we can get a fire truck in there in case that there is an emergency. We'll have to look at what their plan is, if they have any loading or unloading docks or stations and parking, and they're aware of all of that. And we would handle all of that through the site plan process.
And I would really hope that they would end up wanting to sell ice cream right there on the spot.
We would hope so, because they have really good
Please.
ice cream.
Any other questions?
That was my comment, too. So,
Yes, sir.
So we're looking at perhaps some minimal amount of retail. How many employees would the city of Bethany be expected to be gaining within city limits?
For our current manufacturing, we have about 3 employees, so it's not an exorbitant amount. I still do a lot of the work myself, but no more than 3 employees is what we would have at the location at any time.
Are they, is that where all the work is being done now, or would there be more employees there than have been previously?
I think at the scale we are now, there would never be more than 3 to 4 employees, I believe. If we did, it wouldn't be on this site.
Any other questions?
Mayor,
Yeah.
one for the applicant. Would noise ever be of concern with your manufacturing?
Absolutely not. Everything's indoors, and it's all water-cooled machinery and stuff like that, so it's not noisy at all. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yep.
You know, there's a lot of checks and balances that goes into this. I think we need to remember that the process doesn't stop or start tonight. P&Z considers a lot of the factors before we ever hear it, and it comes to us, and the long-term planning on those corridors and especially council in Rockwell, is to develop those corridors as commercial property. And if we're trying to find a reason not to, I think we're moving in the wrong direction.
I agree. I'm excited about it. Mixed use, here we come. Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Do I need to have anybody from the public want to address this before I get a second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Sandoval,
Aye.
Heron,
Yay.
Powell, Hunter,
Yay.
Knapp,
Yes.
Larson. Palmer,
Yes.
Westmoreland,
Yes.
Goodwin.
Yes.
Ms. Larson, would you clarify your vote, please? Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Item 2.1 is also a public hearing item continued, consideration and possible approval of ordinance number 1988, an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinances and map of the city of Bethany, Oklahoma by including from R1 single family to mixed use development. The property described as 3200 Council Road, Bethany, Oklahoma, County, Oklahoma, as more particularly described hereinafter and declaring an emergency. 2.1A, approval of ordinance 1981 on reading by title only. Yes.
This is the same, this requires an ordinance, and it came in as 2.1. It's just the ordinance noting that this development is going into what's currently in R1. So it requires a vote. Thank you.
Do I have a motion on reading by title only?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Palmer,
Yes.
Larson, Sandoval,
Aye.
Heron,
Yay.
Goodwin,
Yes.
Knapp,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yay.
Powell,
Aye.
Westmoreland.
Yes. 2.1B is approval of section 1 of ordinance number 1981. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Heron,
Yay.
Goodwin,
Yes.
Knapp,
Yes.
Westmoreland,
Yes.
Powell,
Aye.
Larson, Palmer,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yay.
Sandoval.
Item 2.1C is the emergency section. Is there a need for the emergency?
Yes.
Do I have a motion for the emergency section?
What would the emergency be?
So they can get to work.
It means
on
it goes into effect right away.
Is that needed?
Is it needed, the rezoning for moving to the next phase?
Yes, you've passed the rezoning, this just allows it to go into effect right away.
But I have a question. For the applicant, how soon do you anticipate getting to work on this, assuming it passes?
We'd like to get to work right away, so as soon as possible. We start going up and
So right away.
Thank you.
Is there a downside to passing the emergency section? I mean, what's the pros and cons, really?
It's a con for the person coming before you today.
Right. Do I have a motion to approve the emergency section?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Powell,
Aye.
Westmoreland,
Yes.
Goodwin,
Yes.
Sandoval, Knapp,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yay.
Heron,
Yay.
Larson, Palmer.
Yes.
Item 3 is consideration of possible adoption of resolution number 1583, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bethany, Oklahoma, in accordance with section 37.04 of the City of Bethany ordinances for the City Council of the City of Bethany to establish wages and salaries for city employees by suspending automatic pay raises pursuant to the general pay plan. Do I have a motion for approval, or does anybody have any questions?
I make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Palmer,
Yes.
Sandoval, Westmoreland,
Yes.
Heron,
Yes.
Larson, Goodwin, Powell,
Aye.
Hunter,
Yay.
Knapp.
Yes.
Item 4, Mrs. Connor, would you take this over?
I'll be happy to. Consideration and possible adoption of ordinance number 1968, an ordinance of the City of Bethany, Oklahoma, enacting the Cox Cable franchise agreement, granting to Coxcom LLC and its successors and assigns the right and privilege for a term of 5 years to construct, erect, operate, modify, and maintain in, upon, along, across, above, over, and under the streets, alleys, easements, and other public ways and places within the City of Bethany, Oklahoma. Such facilities necessary for the operation and maintenance of a cable television system in the city, making said grant to the provisions of the franchise ordinance and the franchise agreement, providing that the rights and privileges granted herein are expressly made subject to Chapter 123 of the Bethany Code of Ordinances and the provisions of the franchise agreement entered into and by the city and Cox, requiring Cox to strictly comply with the franchise agreement, providing that this franchise ordinance shall become effective on February 4th, 2020, providing that a vote of the people is not required and has been preempted by federal law, incorporating Exhibit A as the Cox Cable franchise agreement, repealing all ordinances to the contrary, providing that nothing in this ordinance shall be construed to prevent the city from granting a cable television franchise to any other person, firm, or corporation, and declaring an emergency. And then it contains A, approval of ordinance 1968 by reading by title only, B, approval of sections 1 through 8 of ordinance number 1968, and C, approval of section 9 of ordinance number 1968, the emergency section. And may I suggest that we vote, that the city council vote on that as a whole?
That's one item.
Yes,
I just have one question.
yes.
The 5-year term, is that starting tonight, or is that starting from when their last contract was,
The contract that was
or the franchise agreement?
negotiated by many people along the way
Mhm.
calls for it to begin when the contract is signed.
Okay.
If you would like for me to take it back again,
No,
thank you.
I was just trying to clarify.
Yes.
Do I have a motion for approval for,
So moved.
do I have a second?
Second.
Powell,
Aye.
Westmoreland,
Yes.
Goodwin, Sandoval, Knapp,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yay.
Heron,
Yay.
Larson,
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Item 5 is consideration of possible approval of ordinance number 1986 and ordinance amending Title 3, Chapter 30 of the Bethany Code of Ordinances regarding the regular meetings of the City Council time and place of meetings to be changed from 7:30 to 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Let me repeat that. Meetings to be changed from 7:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. meetings, changing the place from City Hall to the Bethany Library or other convenient place as is necessary during the renovations of City Hall. Allow City Council to change by motion the date, time, and place of regularly scheduled meetings under certain circumstances and declaring an emergency. And we should probably do 5A, B, and C as one as well, don't you think?
Yes. I think that's more convenient to the council unless somebody wants to pull some part of it out.
Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Larson? Larson?
Yes.
Goodwin?
Yes.
Heron?
Yay.
Knapp?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
Sandoval? Westmoreland?
Yes.
Hunter?
Yay.
Powell?
Aye.
Item 6 is consideration and possible approval of ordinance number 1987, an ordinance amending Title 15, Chapter 159 of the Bethany Code of Ordinances regarding the regular meetings of the Planning and Zoning Commission location of meetings to be changed from meeting at Bethany City Hall to Bethany Library and declaring an emergency. Do I have a motion for approval of 6A, B, and C?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Larson?
Yay.
Goodwin?
Yay.
Heron?
Yay.
Knapp?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
Sandoval? Westmoreland?
Yes.
Hunter?
Yay.
Powell?
Aye.
Item 7 is approval of amended schedule of meetings for calendar year 2020.
Make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Palmer?
Yes.
Hunter?
Yay.
Westmoreland?
Yes.
Goodwin? Powell?
Aye.
Heron?
Yay.
Sandoval? Larson?
Yes.
Knapp?
Yes.
Item 8 is consideration and possible approval of appointment of Councilmember Chris Powell as the ACOG Board of Committee Member Delegate and appointment of Kathy Larson as an alternate.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Heron?
Yay.
Goodwin?
Yay.
Knapp?
Yes.
Westmoreland?
Yes.
Powell?
Aye.
Larson?
Yes.
Palmer?
Yes.
Hunter?
Yay.
Sandoval?
Item 9 is update, discussion, and possible action concerning the water contamination water well efforts.
I'll speak to that for just a moment. So we have been meeting with and having some preliminary discussions with different engineers as we try to move forward and doing a water plan study. So we plan to come back to council very soon on some more discussion on that, about hiring an engineer firm to do a professional study on our water system and come back with some recommendations on how to move forward. We're also, another point is there was some talk last council about the water settlement and those funds. The city attorney is looking at how we place those funds into trust and the best way to do that. So I don't know if you want to speak to that any further or if you want to do that at this point.
Could we have a water trust established, much like the hospital trust?
May I speak to that?
Yes.
You can, and also you can put the money either in your capital improvement fund in a sub-account that by ordinance imposes appropriate spending criteria and restrictions, so that it would only be spent on whatever restrictions you like, water, or you can put it in your Bethany your existing trust. The,
Bethany Develop.
Bethany, excuse me,
I think it's important that,
Public Works Authority.
that we take those funds and that are obviously for exploring and protecting and developing our water systems, and protect those where they don't go in the general fund. But we also want to do that in the least complicated way, and providing the most amount of options to the council in the future on how they decide to use those funds. So that's our goal and moving forward with that.
I personally think, I would like to see us at least pursue the cost and what would be involved in having some kind of water planning document. I mean, kind of like the comprehensive plan came up with a roadmap and a game plan, so that we know what we should do and could do, and not knowing what that would cost at this point. But I think it would be wise to at least have something similar to, the comp plan in regards to our water, futures of our water.
That's definitely our goal. There's a lot of different things we want to look at moving forward, as far as the testing of our south well field, and also we want to have some advice from the engineer on if we decide to move into other areas. So we're going to look to them for some professional advice on how to move forward.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'll just make a quick comment, observation from earlier today. And I already mentioned this to Amanda and to Brad. I just happened to see that OWRB has some new federal funding available for both water and wastewater systems. So I'm assuming there would be matching funds required, but I'm not certain of that. But we need to pursue any funding we can get to help
Yes,
expand what we got from the settlement.
absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown, I think probably it's a great idea that we have an engineering firm, someone that has the expertise to advise us on how to plan in the future. And I think it's premature to do anything at this juncture until we get reports back from those engineers. Because
Okay.
we don't know. This body is not competent to make a decision on how we spend that money at this point.
True. So the first step would be finding out what it would cost the city to have engineers look at what it would create, what it would
Okay.
take to create that, I would guess.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question? So
Yes.
I will move forward with presenting a restricted fund, and that this group can decide how they want to spend the money, what restrictions they want to put on it, as opposed to putting it into a general fund.
Are there any restrictions on putting that money in an interest-bearing instrument during the interim period?
Not right now, no.
I think that would probably be the best way. Let's make a little money off of it.
Well, we won't vote on that tonight because it's not a vote item, but some things for you to consider for next time. Thank you.
Item 10 is citizens' opportunity to address the council on general topics related to city business or services. There's a 3-minute limit. No action may be taken on matters under this item. Is there anyone wishing to address the council this evening?
Kim Price, 4608 North Wheeler. I know you can't answer me, but you can shake your head. Please tell me there's not going to be a car lot at 39th and Rockwell, where they tore that little building down. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Williams?
I seem to be a regular staple here. Arville Williams, 4001 North Patty. Mr. Brown, excellent presentation. All the numbers were there. They all made sense. And for the first time, we could actually see what was going on. Okay. I want to discuss revenue right now, and I want to admonish you not to be short-sighted. As much as I approve entrepreneurs, that's an expensive piece of real estate that has a lot of frontage, and the problem that we have in Bethany is we're landlocked and we don't have a lot of frontage. So as a warehouse manufacturing long-term, the best use for that property. It's their property. They can do what they want to with it. I want the council to think about that. What we need is retail and retail sales for the tax revenue. And you are the leaders. You're the ones that have to make those decisions. Water. Why aren't we looking long-term at these aquifers that we have, these shallow, naturally filtered aquifers that are good quality water? As part of that plan, why can't we sell to War Acres? Why does the city of Oklahoma City have to have a lock on that contract? And I don't have to tell you how expensive water from OKC is. You can undercut them by 25% and still be making money. And the water treatment plant has excess capacity, even with one clarifier basin down. Start thinking outside of the box and start thinking 10, 15, and 20 years down the road. Plan for it. Why do you think the city of Oklahoma City has all the walk on the water? These plans were made back in the 1950s. And if you go back to the way the wells were drilled back in the 1950s, you will find that I think there was something of a similar plan for the city of Bethany, although it got lost in time. If you don't start thinking outside the box and start thinking long-term, we're just going to be here again. And you're going to be asking for the citizens of Bethany. I think you said that we need to be between 13 and 15% for the city to still be able to provide viable services on your cuts. That means that we've got to bear the citizens, the 7,100 water and trash people, or homes, have to bear 61% of that $4.5 million, roughly. The other 40% is going to be coming out of cuts from the city. You can't come back in 3 years, 4 years, and do that again. Eventually, it will become untenable. Think outside the box, think long-term, always. That is the council's job.
I really appreciate you saying that, Mr. Williams, because some of us on this council have been in those meetings with those very same topics, thinking outside the box and doing that. I fully agree. Is there anyone else? Item 11, City Attorney's Report.
I don't have any remarks tonight, thank you.
Item 12, City Manager's Report.
I don't have any more comments tonight.
Item 13 is Mayor and Council Members' announcements, comments, and proposals. This evening, let's start down with Ms. Sandoval.
This is just a friendly reminder to take the census to make sure we are all counted. So this is just a recordatorio de que se tomen el censo para asegurarse que todos estemos contados. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goodwin.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for presentation tonight and clarity and all the work that is going into that. I did have one other just question that I would love to see in the future, as was scanning Facebook comments in between meetings after the presentation. And obviously there's various vetting to things and comments, but there's a former council member that left a comment about raises given of 15%, 30% and over. And that doesn't seem like a standard practice, at least in professional fields that I've seen. And so I would just be curious if there was something great from those years to celebrate that can be highlighted. But if not, moving forward, would like to see what things are in place. I know we just voted on not having automatic raises, and we want to pay our people as best we can. But similar to this comment here, long-term on the tenability of things, that what is the process? And maybe that's false, but I would like to see if there's viability to that. So just mention that, and then I would like to say, just mention an event that is coming here to Bethany by the Race Dance Collective, as we're here in Black History Month, and it is going to be February 11th here at the library. And they do various performances all over the city and bringing people together. The Hip Hop Nutcracker is one of the most famous they do around, but they have dancers that have come through that are all over the country. It's going to be fun and informative on the history of hip hop, and will be a great time of bringing people together. So February 11th here at 6:30 at the library.
Thank you. Mr. Powell?
Well, I want to echo what Councilmember Sandoval said about filling out the census. Not only make sure that you do that, but make sure everybody in your house and your neighbors, if you to the degree that you can, make sure that they're accounted for in that. It's important to get the best count that we can. I want to also echo Councilmember Goodwin's comments about the budget presentation. It was a very good picture of what we are facing, and I think it's something that it's not just the council, it's not just the city staff, it's everybody. Needs to try to look and see what we can do to preserve our town the way that we would like it to be. In particular with Mr. and Ms. Moots that are here. We would very much like to see retail there. If your business is successful and you can bring in more employees that are coming into the city of Bethany and going to lunch and things of that nature, we would like to see that going forward, and it's really going to take all of us to work through this. So let's move ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Palmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the city manager and his preparation and presentation related to the budget. I thought it was very thorough, and it was understandable, and I hope the public appreciates the work that went into that and comes to a better understanding as to what we have to do together. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll echo Mr. Powell's comments because I could walk to your location if you put a retail location there. And also, I would really like to thank the library staff for hosting us, just going all out to prepare everything for us. Thank you, Rhonda, and everybody that played a part in that. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Herron?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing.
Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As always, thanks for everybody showing up tonight. We appreciate you being here. The chairs probably aren't quite as comfortable as they are at City Hall, but again, thanks for being here. To the staff, always doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Congratulations go out to a science class over at Bethany High. They're going to follow, I guess, Sally Ride's expedition into space, at least with an experiment. They put a proposal to NASA, which was accepted, and they're going to send some mosquitoes up to the space station and see how they bite, I guess, in a zero gravity environment. So that I think that's quite, for those kids to be able to present this proposal to NASA and get approved. I think that's quite a feat. As far as your business on over on 32nd and Council, if we wait around and are subjective and picky in waiting for retail space to come along, we're going to still be waiting another 20 years from now. We appreciate the expansion of business down those corridors. They're not all going to be major sales tax revenue generators. So please don't think that your business is not important and that we don't appreciate the fact that you want to do business in Bethany. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Larson?
I want to thank the library for the accommodations that tonight and in the future, your willingness to help us out. I also want to thank staff, especially the leadership of Mr. Brown, for the presentation at 6 o'clock and what you're doing with the budget and our financial situation. And I also want, for those of you that are blood donors, we're getting in real close now that if you gave, you're not going to be able to give again before March 21st. And so I'd like for you to mark your calendars to give your blood. We want your blood. So if you could do that, we'll have more information about that. Mark your calendars, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to thank you for bringing your operation to Bethany home. And I agree with Mr. Powell and others that we really, we need retail, but I also agree with Chief Hunter that not everything is going to be that. But I do know this, that activity energizes more activity. And so with what you're doing there, I really believe that's a great start for what's going to happen on that corridor, and I appreciate you guys willing to invest in Bethany like that. I also want to thank Brad for the presentation and the simplistic clarity for all of us to be able to look at what we're facing. And I don't want to be the guy that keeps adding things to council agendas, but I do want to make sure it stays in front of our citizens so they continue to hear what's going on. And so I know we've added the continual update on what's going on with our water situation, and I would like to possibly see another item added on updates on our budget and where we are, just so the citizens are aware with the efforts that are going into this. I also just had a question, and maybe staff can help come up with some of these numbers and some of this information. Was thinking about the number of parks that we have in the city of Bethany within neighborhoods that may be, maybe not, but may be underutilized and would be better suited as possibly developed for additional homes in these areas. Our public works employees maintain these parks, and if they're underutilized, maybe they would be better served being developed into homes and adding to our residency here in Bethany. I don't know what the covenant rules are with some of these neighborhoods when they went in with parks, but I'd just like some information on that and seeing if that's even a possibility. Item 14 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until February 18th, 2020. I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1 is the consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Westmoreland,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Powell. Goodwin. Sandoval. Knapp,
Yes.
Heron,
Yay.
Hunter,
Yay.
Larson.
Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until February 18th, 2020. I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1 is consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Heron,
Yay.
Goodwin. Knapp,
Yes.
Westmoreland,
Yes.
Powell. Larson. Palmer,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yay.
Sandoval.
Item 2 is discussion on transferring funds from the Bethany Hospital Trust to the Capital Improvement Projects Fund to facilitate ADA compliancy at City Hall. I ask that this would be put on the agenda for discussion only, because I'd like to hear what council's thoughts are, so that we can see how soon we can begin these renovations.
I think it's a great idea.
Do we know what's available in the Bethany Hospital Trust accounts?
Yes, it's about $3.4 million.
Are there any limitations on how that money can be spent? Any stipulations?
The council can vote not tonight to transfer some money into the city.
So there's no stipulation.
None of the council votes otherwise. The only stipulation is if, it's not particularly a stipulation, but there needs to be enough money in the account, so if something happens to the hospital building, it could be repaired or whatever needs to happen.
Do we currently have a monthly encumbrance on that of any type monetarily? Or is
I
it
don't
being
know the answer
supported?
to that question. Do you, Michael? We can get that information.
with the hospital, or with the facility.
Thank you.
I think possibly we need to maybe work with our engineer or somebody to come up with a baseline, what the council desires to keep in that account. Worst case scenario, or even just get some ideas of what are some costs that we could occur in the future, just so we kind of have a baseline. Here's what we don't want to go below.
And the current agreement with the group that's in our hospital, as it sits right now, we will not receive any rent till when, per the upgrades they made to the building?
Well, I'd have to review that for sure, but I believe it's around 2026, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
That's approximately correct.
The rent goes back to them to make up for the improvements they made to the building under the contract.
Mr. Mayor, a question for Ms. Connor. can we determine what in that contract we are responsible for, such as major loss of the heat and air system, major collapse of the sewer line, that would be our responsibility and not the tenant's? I guess what I'm asking, as a landlord, what is our responsibilities for any high-cost maintenance? That may,
Certainly. I've reviewed it, but it's lengthy, and I'll review it and give you more in detail.
my point being, what is that amount of money that we need to maintain, like Mr. Herron said,
Mm-hmm.
in case of
I
a
understand.
catastrophic event?
I understand.
And we're not ready to make a recommendation on the amount that you would transfer, but I don't know that it's going to be, it's always significant, but I don't know it'll be that significant as compared to the amount that's in that trust fund. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And we do have a grant that was awarded to the city of Bethany. That's a matching grant that will go towards ADA compliancy. That also helps with that, with those renovations.
And that's still underway. We're still exploring that. I don't think we have all the details of that worked out, but that's something we are working on.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Item 3 is new business. Do we have any new business?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would, now that we've talked about that, I would request if we could create a committee to the extent that we could look into the feasibility of the Bethany Hospital Trust, to the extent we can determine whether or not that's a need or a necessity at this point in time, and whether it can be, we can look into whether we have other options related to the Bethany Hospital Trust.
Meaning, should we be in the business of hospital business?
Exactly.
Okay. Item 3 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until February 18th, 2020. I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Item 1 is consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Powell.
Aye.
Hunter.
Yay.
Sandoval. Palmer.
Yes.
Westmoreland.
Yes.
Heron. Knapp.
Yes.
Goodwin. Larson.
Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until February 18th, 2020. And with that, we are adjourned.